The Valdorian Empire had conquered 17 star systems in 3 decades. Their warships were monuments to terror, kilometer-long behemoths bristling with plasma cannons and quantum disruptors. Their soldiers were genetically enhanced killing machines, bred for combat and conditioned from birth to know only victory. When their fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, they expected the usual response: panic, desperate pleas for mercy, perhaps a futile attempt at resistance before inevitable surrender. What they got instead was something far more unsettling. Laughter. Admiral Vexthal stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching the tactical display with growing confusion. The primitive human vessels, barely 100 ships compared to his armada of 3,000, had formed what appeared to be a defensive formation. But instead of the grim silence that usually preceded a Doomblast stand, the communication channels were filled with something that made his translator circuits work overtime. "Sir," his communications officer reported, mandibles clicking nervously, "the humans are making rhythmic vocalizations of amusement." "They're laughing at us?" Admiral Vexthal's 4 eyes narrowed to slits. In 30 years of conquest, no species had ever laughed at the sight of the Valdorian armada. Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Defiant was indeed laughing, tears streaming down her face as she watched the enemy fleet's formation on her holographic display. Around her, the bridge crew was in similar states of barely controlled hysteria. "Ma'am," her tactical officer wheezed between giggles, should we respond to their surrender demand?" "Give me a moment," Chen gasped, trying to compose herself. She activated the fleet-wide
broadcast networks 3 centuries ago. It featured heroic soldiers conquering primitive worlds using dramatic formations, intimidating speeches, and overwhelming force. The problem was that it had been written by entertainment executives who had never seen actual combat and was aimed at juvenile audiences who found the over-the-top theatrics exciting. When the ancient Valdorian military had decided to model their conquest doctrine on this popular entertainment, they had assumed it represented the pinnacle of strategic thinking. After all, it was beloved by millions of Valdorians and featured impressive visual effects. No one had ever explained to them that it was fiction. "Admiral Vexthal," the human fleet's response finally came through the communication array. "This is Captain Chen of the United Earth Systems Fleet. We need a moment." The bridge of the Eternal Dominion fell silent. In the background, they could still hear the rhythmic sounds of human amusement. Are they mocking our surrender terms?" Lieutenant Kraeth asked. Admiral Vexthal activated his personal communicator. "This is Admiral Vexthal, Supreme Commander of the Valdorian Third Conquest Fleet. You will surrender immediately or face the devastating power of Formation Omega-7. The human laughter intensified. "Oh no," Captain Chen's voice came back, barely controlled. "Not Formation Omega-7. What's next? The Crimson Thunder maneuver?" Admiral Vexthal's confidence wavered. How did she know about the Crimson Thunder maneuver? Dr. Rodriguez had spent weeks analyzing Valdorian military tactics, and the pattern was unmistakable. Every formation had a dramatic name. Every maneuver was preceded by an intimidating speech. Every battle plan followed the same 3-act structure as an entertainment program, complete with moments designed for dramatic tension and surprise revelations. The humans had done their homework. "Sir," Captain Chen addressed her crew, wiping tears from her eyes. "They're actually going to do it. They're actually going to attempt Formation Omega-7. On the tactical display, the Valdorian fleet began its elaborate repositioning. Ships moved in perfect geometric patterns, creating an impressive visual display that looked magnificent and struck fear into the hearts of species who didn't recognize it as a slightly modified version of a dance number from Act 2 of Warriors of the Void. The formation had one critical flaw that any competent military strategist would have noticed. It concentrated the entire fleet's firepower in a forward arc, while leaving the flanks completely exposed. It was designed to look intimidating for the cameras, not to win actual battles. "All ships," Captain Chen announced, trying to keep her voice steady, "execute pincer movement alpha. Target their exposed flanks. And remember, wait for the dramatic speech before we engage." Admiral Vexthal raised his forearms in the traditional gesture of ultimate authority, his voice booming across all channels. "Behold primitive humans. Witness the might of Formation Omega-7. Your destruction is inevitable, for we are The human attack came from both sides simultaneously, targeting the Valdorian fleet's blind spots with surgical precision. 18 Valdorian ships were disabled in the first 30 seconds, their crews too shocked by the breach of dramatic protocol to respond effectively. But, but they attacked during the speech, Lieutenant Craith sputtered. That's not how it works. The enemies are supposed to wait until the speech is finished. Admiral Vexthal realized in that moment of horrifying clarity that 3 centuries of military doctrine might have been based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how actual warfare functioned. The battle lasted exactly 11 minutes. The humans, fighting against opponents who followed predictable entertainment formulas, found themselves in the unusual position of winning a space battle against overwhelming odds simply by refusing to follow the script. As the Valdorian fleet retreated, Admiral Vexthal received one final transmission from Captain Chen. Admiral, we'll be forwarding you our complete collection of Warriors of the Void episodes, along with some actual military strategy textbooks. Consider it a cultural exchange program. The Valdorian Empire's reputation never quite recovered from the day an entire species discovered that the galaxy's most feared military force had been taking tactical advice from children's television. But the humans, in their infinite capacity for finding humor in the absurd, made sure the memes lived forever.